It's always something small that gives it away. The pause before you answer. The half smile you use like a shield, the way you let someone else take the spotlight, even when you could dismantle the whole conversation with one sentence. You're sitting there, calm, almost forgettable on purpose, while the room keeps moving around you like nothing's happening, but everything is happening. Your phone buzzes. You don't rush to check it. You already know who it is by the pattern of the day. You already know what they want by the timing. You've seen the script before, people showing up loud when they need something, quiet when you do. So you adjust, you soften your voice, you make your eyes gentler, you drop a little joke, something harmless, something that makes everyone exhale. You act like you didn't notice the tension, like you don't hear the competition in the compliments, like you didn't catch the subtle disrespect hidden in, "I was just kidding." And that's the part nobody understands. They think you're being modest. They think you're being awkward. They think you're naive. But you're not naive. You're strategic in a way that doesn't look like strategy because you learned something early. The moment people feel threatened by your depth, they start trying to shrink you. They start misreading you on purpose. They start turning your honesty into a problem. So you do the opposite. You become safe to underestimate. You play the wise fool, not to trick people for fun, not to win some petty game, but because it's the cleanest way to stay in control without starting a war. Because when you look harmless, people relax. They stop performing. They stop guarding. They fill the silence with extra information they didn't mean to give. They show you the real version of themselves. The one that leaks out when they think you're not paying attention, and you are always paying attention, not with suspicion, with clarity. You're mapping the power dynamics, the quiet alliances, the little betrayals people call misunderstandings, the way someone's kindness disappears the second they don't get what they want. And the scariest part? You don't even need to expose them. You just adjust. You step half a foot back emotionally. You stop offering access. You stop feeding the parts of them that only light up when you're useful. And they never see it coming because you never announce it. You're not loud about your intelligence. You're not flashy about your boundaries. You're not dramatic about your exits. You just become impossible to manipulate. And that's why this feels almost forbidden, because the real deal isn't that INFJs are mysterious. It's that you can look like the easiest person in the room while quietly becoming the one person nobody can outplay. So, let's dive a little deeper. All right, first up, INFJs use humor to say what others can't. You've noticed how you do it without even thinking. A room gets tense. Someone says something slightly cruel and hides it behind a smile, and everyone pretends they didn't hear the edge in it. The air thickens. People start acting normal, too normal. And that's when you drop it. Not an attack, not a confrontation, just a soft little line, almost playful, like you're tossing a pebble into still water. Something small that makes people laugh, because laughter is easier than truth. But the words land anyway, because you're not joking to be funny. You're joking because it's the only way to speak honestly without getting punished for it. You've learned that if you say it directly, people call you intense. If you name what's happening, they act like you're the problem for noticing. So you wrap the truth in something light, a metaphor, a casual observation, a half smile that says, "It's not that deep," while your eyes say, "It is." And the strange part is, they let you. They let the fool speak. They let the harmless one say what the brave one would get attacked for saying. So you play it perfectly. You make it sound like a passing thought. You make it sound like you're not keeping score. You make it sound like you're not reading the room like a map. And everyone relaxes. They laugh, they nod, they move on, because they think the moment's gone, but later, when they're alone, it comes back. Because your joke wasn't random, it was accurate. It was a mirror held up for half a second, just long enough for the right person to see themselves. And if someone tries to challenge you, you can always shrug. You can always soften. You can always say, "I'm kidding." That's the genius of it. You get to tell the truth and still leave yourself an exit. Not because you're cowardly, because you're careful, because you know this world doesn't reward honesty, it rewards delivery. So you choose the delivery that keeps you safe, keeps the room calm, and still lets the truth breathe. And next up, INFJs ask innocent questions that make others confess. You don't come at people like a detective. You don't point fingers. You don't corner them with accusations. You don't raise your voice and demand clarity like you're owed an explanation. You just tilt your head a little, let your tone stay soft, almost curious, like you're genuinely trying to understand. And that's why it works, because your questions don't sound like weapons. They sound like space. Wait, walk me through that. Why did you choose that specifically? What did you mean when you said it like that? Simple words, clean words, but you're not asking for information the way most people ask. You're watching what happens to their story when it has to stand up on its own. You're watching whether they answer the question or perform around it, whether they clarify or dodge, whether they get irritated at your calmness, because calmness makes lying feel lonely. And the longer you stay gentle, the more their mask starts to slip, because people expect a fight. They prepare for conflict. They rehearse defenses. They sharpen their excuses, but you don't give them that. You give them quiet. You give them patience. And in that patience, they start talking. They fill the silence with extra details they didn't plan to give. They over-explain. They backtrack. They contradict themselves in small ways, not even realizing you're collecting those tiny fractures like fingerprints, not to punish them, just to see what's true. And if they are telling the truth, they feel it too. Your question becomes a doorway instead of a trap. They finally get to be real without being attacked. But if they aren't, your innocent question becomes unbearable, because it's not the question that exposes them. It's the fact that you're not buying the performance. You're not impressed by volume. You're not moved by confidence. You're not hypnotized by charm. You're just listening. And eventually, they confess, not always with words, sometimes with a sigh, a shift in tone, a flash of annoyance, a moment where they realize you can't be steered, and you don't even smile about it. You just nod, like you already knew. Third on the list, INFJs use self-deprecation as a smoke bomb. You've learned how to make your sharpest instincts disappear in plain sight, not by hiding them completely, just by lowering the volume. So when you notice something off, when you feel the mood shift in the room, when you catch the contradiction in someone's story, you don't come in like a judge. You don't announce your certainty. You don't say, "You're lying," even when every part of you can feel it. You smile a little, you soften it, you offer yourself up first. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I could be wrong. I'm probably being dramatic. And people relax instantly because you just handed them something they love. Permission to see you as harmless. It's not that you believe you're wrong. It's that you know what happens when you sound too right. You've watched how certain people react to clarity, how they take it personally, how they try to humble you, how they turn your perception into an insult. So you learn to package truth in a way that doesn't trigger their defenses. You make yourself smaller on the surface so you can stay powerful underneath. It shows up in the smallest moments, in a meeting where you already see the outcome, but you say it like a question so nobody feels exposed. In a group chat where you could call out the passive aggression, but you toss a light line at yourself so the tension dissolves and the message still lands. At dinner, When someone tries to test you and you laugh at yourself first, stealing their ammunition before they even load it. And the wild thing is, it works, because self-deprecation is a fog machine. It fills the room with harmlessness, with humility, with "I'm not a threat." And while everyone is breathing easier, you're still watching, still tracking, still choosing your next move with quiet precision. You're not insulting yourself, you're controlling the temperature, because you don't need to dominate people to understand them. You just need them to stop performing long enough to show you what's real. And fourthly, INFJs let you feel like the smartest person in the room. This is the controversial part. INFJs will sometimes intentionally play smaller so you overextend. When people feel clever, they reveal more, push harder, and expose patterns. The INFJ outsmart move is making you feel smart first. You've done this without calling it a strategy. You walk into a conversation and you can already see where it's going, how the story will end, who's trying to control the narrative, who's performing, who's nervous. But you don't rush to prove it. You don't correct them mid-sentence. You don't steal the spotlight just because you can. You let them have it. You let them talk like they're teaching you something. You nod. You listen. You ask one small question that makes them feel even more in charge. You give them the experience of being the smart one, the leader, the expert. And the moment someone feels superior, they start getting careless. They start revealing what they actually value. They start showing how they move when they think no one is watching closely. You see it in group settings, especially. Someone tries to dominate the room, talking over people, making helpful corrections, forcing their opinion to become the default. And you could challenge it, you could shut it down, but you don't. You let them keep going until they overplay their hand, until the arrogance becomes obvious, until the contradictions pile up, until even the room starts to feel the imbalance. And then, without raising your voice, you say one quiet sentence that reframes everything. Not a long speech, just a clean line that makes everyone pause. Because you weren't fighting for attention. You were waiting for the truth to become undeniable. And it's not manipulative the way people assume. It's protective. It's you refusing to waste your energy on ego wars. You'd rather let someone feel powerful for 5 minutes than reveal your full depth to someone who would only try to compete with it. You'd rather observe than perform. And while they're busy proving themselves, you're learning exactly who they are. That's the wise fool part. You look like you're behind, but you're actually ahead. Because you're not trying to win the moment. You're trying to understand the whole game. Fifthly, INFJs play nice to run a character test. An INFJ may give you a chance that looks like softness, benefit of the doubt, second chance, extra patience. Secretly, it's a test. Do you become respectful, or do you exploit it? If you fail, they don't fight, they withdraw access. You don't call it a test out loud. You'd never sit there thinking, let me see if this person is worthy. That's not how it feels inside you. Inside you, it feels like hope. Like giving the world one more chance to surprise you. So, you stay gentle. You keep your tone warm even when something feels off. You give them an extra day to respond. You accept the "sorry, I've been busy" without making them pay for it. You let the awkward moment pass without turning it into a courtroom. And people think that means you didn't notice. But you noticed. You always notice. You're just watching what they do with your kindness once they realize it's real. Because there are two kinds of people, the ones who become more careful with you when they realize you're soft, and the ones who become bolder, the ones who start testing how much you'll tolerate, how long you'll wait, how many times you'll forgive a pattern as if it was an accident. So you keep being kind and you pay attention. You notice if they start showing up only when they need comfort, advice, reassurance, then disappear the moment you need anything back. You notice if your patience becomes their permission slip. You notice if your empathy gets treated like a resource instead of a relationship. And the thing is, you don't even punish them. You don't blow up. You don't shame them. You don't post quotes online about betrayal. You just stop. You stop explaining yourself to someone who only listens when it benefits them. You stop initiating. You stop offering the version of you that makes their life easier. You become polite, distant, busy in a way that isn't performative. It's final. Because you've learned something painful. If someone is willing to exploit your softness, they will never respect your boundaries until you enforce them. So, you enforce them quietly. Not as revenge, as clarity. And that's why it hits people like a sudden cold front. They thought your kindness meant you had no limits. They thought you'd always be there. They don't realize the nice part was you gathering evidence with your heart open. And once you have enough, you don't fight. You withdraw access. Sixthly, INFJs delay their real opinion until you've shown your hand. INFJs often respond with, "interesting," or ask one more question instead of taking a stance. It frustrates impulsive people, but it's tactical. They're collecting enough data to land one sentence that ends the debate. You've seen how people demand immediacy, like it's a loyalty test. They want your reaction right now, your agreement right now, your outrage right now. Because if you hesitate, they assume you're hiding something, or worse, that you're not on their side. So you do the one thing that makes chaotic people uncomfortable. You pause. You let the moment breathe. You say, "interesting," not because you're unsure, but because you're watching what they do when they don't get instant validation. You ask one more question, not to stall, but to see how stable their story is when it's gently pressed. And the more you delay, the more they reveal. They start adding details, they start justifying, they start correcting themselves, they start showing you the emotional engine behind their words: fear, pride, jealousy, control. Because the truth is, you don't trust first impressions when it comes to people. Not because you're cynical, because you're accurate. You've learned that the first version of someone's opinion is often performance, a posture, a mask built for the room they're in. And if you respond too fast, you end up reacting to the mask instead of the person. So you wait, you let them talk long enough to show you where the cracks are. You notice who's trying to recruit you into their drama, who wants you to become a witness, a weapon, a backup plan. You notice the subtle pressure hidden in, "I just wanted to be honest with you." And when you finally speak, it's not emotional spillover, it's clean, it's measured. It's the kind of sentence that doesn't start an argument. It ends one. Because by then you're not guessing, you're not reacting, you're responding from the full picture. And that's what people don't understand about your silence. They think silence means you don't know what to say. But your silence is you refusing to give away your position until you know exactly what game you're in. Seventhly, INFJs hide sharp boundaries behind warmth. People mistake kindness for permission. INFJs often look flexible until a line is crossed. Then the tone turns calm and final. That whiplash is the wise fool reveal. They saw it coming. They just didn't react. Early. You don't walk around announcing your limits. You don't post them. You don't lecture people about respect. You don't threaten to leave every time something feels off. You just show up. Warm. You listen closely. You remember small details. You reply thoughtfully. You make people feel safe enough to be messy, safe enough to be human. And because you can hold so much, people start assuming you have no edge, no breaking point, no line. They mistake your softness for open access. They treat your patience like it's unlimited. They start taking things they didn't earn. Your time, your emotional labor, your forgiveness, like it's just part of who you are. And for a while, you let it slide. Not because you don't notice, you notice everything. You just don't react early, because you've learned what happens when you react early. You get labeled dramatic, controlling, sensitive, so you watch, You gather patterns. You give someone enough rope to show you whether they're safe or whether they're simply comfortable. But then there's a moment. It might be a comment that crosses a line they've been inching toward for weeks. It might be the third joke that's really a disrespect. It might be the way they ignore your no and ask again like they can wear you down. And that's when the warmth changes, not into anger, into finality. Your voice gets quieter, your eyes get steadier, the sentence gets shorter. No, don't do that. I'm not available for this. And people feel that shift like a door closing with no slam, just a clean click. That's the whiplash that confuses them. Because they thought you were endlessly flexible. They thought your kindness meant you wouldn't enforce anything. They thought your boundaries were negotiable. But boundaries aren't walls. Even though boundaries start looking like walls after enough burns. You didn't build a fortress because you hate people. You built a line because you finally got tired of being the only one acting like your heart mattered. And once that line is there, you don't argue about it. You just stop letting certain energy reach you. You don't punish. You withdraw access. Finally, INFJs don't win arguments. They win outcomes. An INFJ may let you think you won the conversation, but watch the aftermath. Decisions shift, alliances move, behavior changes. Their outsmarting isn't loud, it's architectural. They redesign the room while everyone else argues about the furniture. You've never been addicted to the moment. You don't need to own someone in front of an audience. You don't need the last word. You don't even need to be understood immediately because you've learned something most people never learn. Winning an argument is cheap. Outcomes are everything, so you can sit through a conversation where someone talks over you, twists the narrative, tries to bait you into reacting, and you stay calm. You let them have their little victory lap. You watch them smile like they've pinned you down. And you don't fight for the spotlight. Because while they're busy trying to win the scene, you're adjusting the story, you're clocking who's actually listening, who's uncomfortable, who's silently disagreeing, who's only clapping because they're afraid to be the next target. You're noticing the cracks in the performance. The places where people's faces don't match their words. And you're making decisions. Quiet decisions. The kind that don't announce themselves until later. Maybe you stop volunteering information to the person who keeps weaponizing it. Maybe you shift your energy towards someone who's consistently safe. Maybe you stop arguing and start documenting. Maybe you stop trying to change someone's mind and instead change your proximity to them. How often you show up, how much access they have, how much influence they're allowed. You don't punish, you restructure. And that's why it feels like you outsmart people, because you're not playing on the same level they are. They're fighting for attention. You're building leverage. They're trying to win today. You're protecting next month. So when the dust settles, something is different. The group dynamic is different. The power balance is different. The person who thought they controlled you suddenly can't get a reaction, can't get information, can't get closeness, and they don't even know when it happened because you didn't start a war. You just stopped feeding the pattern. That's the wise fool at the highest level. You look calm, you look unbothered, but really, you're rewriting the entire environment so you never have to beg for respect again. And if this hit a little too close, if you've ever watched yourself go quiet, smile politely, and still see everything, leave a comment and tell me which part felt the most real for you. Hit like if you want more videos that put words to the things you never say out loud. And subscribe if you're building quieter, stronger boundaries this year. I'll see you in the next one.